What happens when Hollywood's toughest legend walks into a den of daytime TV hosts who think they can rattle him? Well, get ready, because this is a confrontation you won't see coming. Clint Eastwood, the man who made a career out of staring down villains and delivering justice with a whisper, found himself face to face with Joy Behar. What began as a routine promotional appearance quickly spiraled into pure television chaos. Before we dive in, don't forget to subscribe, leave a comment, and hit that like button, because this story will leave you speechless. The cameras rolled live, and Whoopi Goldberg greeted him warmly. "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the legendary Clint Eastwood," she announced as the audience erupted into applause. Eastwood nodded politely and settled into his chair, hands resting calmly on the armrests. "Thank you for having me," he said in that unmistakable gravelly voice. "So, Clint, tell us about your latest project." Whoopi continued, keeping things professional. "What drew you to this story?" "It's about second chances," Eastwood replied thoughtfully. "Sometimes people deserve another shot at redemption, even when society has written them off." Sarah Haynes leaned forward. "That's such a beautiful theme. How do you choose which stories to tell at this stage in your career?" "I look for truth," Eastwood answered simply. "Stories that reveal something real about the human condition. Hollywood has enough fantasy." For several minutes, the conversation flowed naturally. Eastwood shared insights about directing and working with actors, captivating the studio audience with his wisdom. But Joy Behar had been unusually quiet, sitting back with a knowing smile. She had been waiting for her moment, and now it arrived. "Clint, can I ask you something?" Joy interjected, her tone shifting. "You talk about truth and redemption. But don't you think some of your past comments about certain political figures contradict that message?" The studio temperature dropped instantly. Whoopi shot Joy a warning glance, but it was too late. Eastwood's eyes narrowed. "Which comments would those be, Joy?" "Oh, Joy said, feigning sweetness. "Your support for politicians who shall remain nameless, but who have made questionable statements about women and minorities." "I don't recall making any statements disparaging women or minorities," Eastwood replied evenly, his voice carrying the steel edge moviegoers knew well. Joy pressed on. "But by association, don't your political endorsements send a message?" The other hosts exchanged uneasy glances. This was not the direction anyone had planned. Eastwood leaned back and fixed Joy with a stare that could freeze water. "Young lady, I've been in this business since before you were born. I've worked with people of every background, every political persuasion. I judge them by character, not party affiliation." Joy's voice rose. "Excuse me, but I think I have the right to ask tough questions of my guests, and I have the right not to answer gotcha questions from someone more interested in controversy than conversation." Eastwood shot back, calm but firm. Joy's face flushed. "Gotcha questions? I'm asking about your public statements. That's called journalism. Is that what we're calling it now?" Eastwood let out a slight chuckle. "In my day, journalism involved research and facts, not fishing expeditions." Whoopi tried to steer the conversation back. "Let's maybe talk about your film, Clint." But Joy wasn't done. "You can't expect softball questions after making controversial political statements." Eastwood remained steady, eyes glinting dangerously. "Well, there was that whole empty chair thing," Joy said smugly, referring to a past political convention appearance. "You mean when I used a creative metaphor to make a point about accountability?" Eastwood replied. "Yeah, I remember that. What about it?" "Don't you think it was a little unhinged?" Joy pressed, thinking she had found her angle. The studio fell completely silent. Even the crew sensed something significant was unfolding. Eastwood leaned forward slightly, his voice dropping to that whisper, quiet, calm, but somehow more intimidating than shouting. "Joy, let me ask you something. How many films have you made?" "What does that have to do with anything?" Joy shot back defensively. "Just answer the question. How many films have you directed, produced, or starred in?" "That's not the point. I'm a television host and comedian." "Right?" Eastwood continued, his tone sharpening. "And how many Academy Awards have you won?" Joy's voice pitched higher.
"Again, that's not relevant."
"Then how about this?" Eastwood pressed, leaning closer. "How many careers have you launched?" How many young actors have you given their first break? How many stories have you told that actually meant something to people? I entertain people every day on this show, Joy replied, though her confidence was wavering. Do you? Eastwood asked, genuinely curious, because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you ambush guests and create controversy for ratings. Is that your idea of entertainment? Sarah Haynes jumped in, trying to ease the tension. Clint, your films have entertained millions. What's been the most rewarding part of your career? Eastwood didn't let Joy off the hook. You know what, Sarah? I'll tell you. The most rewarding part has been working with professionals. People who understand that respect is earned, not demanded. People who don't hide behind a panel of co-hosts to take cheap shots at their guests. Joy's mouth dropped open. Cheap shots? I'm asking legitimate questions about your political views. No. Eastwood corrected her calmly. You're trying to create a viral moment for social media clips. There's a difference between asking questions and ambushing someone. I'm not ambushing anyone. I'm doing my job. Joy protested. Your job is to interview guests about why they're here. Eastwood replied steadily. I came to talk about a film I'm proud of. A story about redemption and second chances. You want politics and drama? That's your choice, but not mine. Whoopi tried again to steer the conversation. The film sounds fascinating, Clint. Tell us about the main character. It's about a man who's made mistakes. Eastwood said, eyes still locked on Joy, but who's trying to do better. Sometimes the biggest obstacles aren't in front of you. They're the people who want to define you by your past instead of letting you grow. Sarah nodded. That's a beautiful message. Redemption is powerful in storytelling. Joy, clearly agitated, leaned in. Speaking of redemption, don't you think some people are beyond it? When someone consistently supports divisive politics, at what point do we stop giving chances? Eastwood's jaw tightened. Are we talking about my film's character, or are you making this personal again? I'm talking about accountability. Joy shot back, voice filled with false righteousness. Public figures have a responsibility to their fans, do they now? Eastwood's quiet voice carried the weight of steel. And what responsibility do television hosts have to their guests? To ask tough questions that matter? No, Joy replied quickly. Yes, Eastwood said firmly. To treat people with basic human decency, something you seem to have forgotten. The other hosts exchanged panicked glances. Whoopi frantically signaled the producers, but Joy was too absorbed in what she thought was her triumph. Human decency, Joy scoffed. That's rich coming from someone who spent decades playing violent characters and glorifying gun culture. The audience gasped. Even by daytime TV standards, this was intense. Eastwood leaned back, studying Joy as if seeing her clearly for the first time. You know what your problem is, Joy? He asked. Enlighten me, she replied sarcastically. You think being loud makes you right. You think being confrontational makes you brave. But all it really makes you is a bully hiding behind a microphone. Excuse me? Joy's voice hit a piercing pitch. You heard me, Eastwood said, calm and controlled. You sit here day after day, taking shots at people who can't fight back because they're guests on your show. You think that makes you powerful? Eastwood said, voice low and controlled, but it just makes you small. How dare you call me small? Joy snapped, standing, her face flushed with rage. I've been doing this job for years. I've interviewed presidents, celebrities, world leaders. And how many of them walked away feeling respected? Exactly. Eastwood replied, calm but cutting. How many walked away thinking that was a professional interview? Joy sputtered. I don't have to take this from you or anyone else. Absolutely right, Eastwood said evenly. You don't have to take anything from me. Just like I don't have to sit here and let you turn what should have been a conversation about art into your personal political theater, Whoopi interjected, trying to calm things. Clint, Joy, maybe we should all just take a breath.
No, Whoopi,
Eastwood said, rising slowly. I think Joy and I understand each other perfectly now. Joy was practically vibrating. You can't just walk out because you don't like the questions. Watch me, Eastwood replied, squinting that iconic gaze. I came here as a courtesy to talk about something I care about. I didn't come to be your punching bag.
This is live television!
You can't just leave, Joy protested. Can I? Eastwood asked, already reaching for his microphone. That's the thing, Joy. Real power isn't cornering someone on Lev TV. Real power is knowing when to walk away. If you leave now, you'll look like you can't handle tough questions, she said, desperate. Eastwood turned to the camera, calm and commanding. Folks at home, I came here to talk about a film that means something to me. Instead, I got ambushed by someone more interested in viral clips than conversation. That says everything about television today. Then he faced Joy again. A's for handling tough questions, lady. I've been handling them since before you knew what a microphone was. The difference, they were asked by professionals. Joy's face turned purple with fury.
You arrogant Hesbury!
You think you can insult me on my own show? The words hit like a slap. The audience was silent. The hosts looked mortified. Even the crew stared in disbelief. Eastwood's gaze didn't waver. For a moment, he looked like one of his classic Western characters, calm, dangerous, done. Has been, he repeated quietly. That's interesting, Joy said, her voice trembling, coming from someone whose biggest claim to fame is sitting at a table, talking about other people's accomplishments. The studio went silent, the tension palpable. Eastwood repeated, slowly savoring the words, has been. You know, Joy, he continued whispering in that quietly terrifying tone. In all my years, I've been called a lot of things, but usually by people who had actually accomplished something themselves. Joy's pride refused to let her back down. I've accomplished plenty.
Thank you very much.
Have you? Eastwood asked, eyes narrowing. Let's see, how many guests have you insulted over the years? How many controversies created? How many interviews destroyed that could have been meaningful? I asked the questions that needed to be asked. She stammered, voice shaking. No. Eastwood corrected. You ask the questions that get attention. There's a difference between journalism and performance art, and you seem to have forgotten which one you're supposed to be doing. Whoopi tried one last time. Clint, maybe we can start over. Joy, why don't you apologize and we can focus on the film? Apologize for what? Joy shot back. For doing your job. Eastwood interjected. Your job is to inform and entertain, not attack guests for sport. I wasn't attacking you, Joy protested weakly. Eastwood laughed, but not pleasantly. Lady, I've been in actual combat. I know what an attack looks like. The difference, when someone attacked me in service, at least they had the courage to do it to my face instead of hiding behind a TV show format. The hosts openly stared at Joy, ranging from embarrassment to disgust. The audience shifted uneasily. You think you're so tough, she said, voice breaking. This is my house, my rules. If you don't like my questions, you can leave. Eastwood smiled, the coldest, deadliest smile anyone had ever seen in that studio. Your house, your rules. You know what, Joy? You're absolutely right. That's the problem. He stood fully, towering over the panel. In your house, guests get ambushed. In your house, disagreement equals disrespect. In your house, Eastwood said, calm but cutting, creating drama is more important than creating understanding. Congratulations, you've built quite a house. Joy sputtered, fuming. If you think you can waltz in here and lecture me about television, you've got another thing coming. I'm not lecturing you about television. Eastwood replied evenly. I'm pointing out that what you do isn't television. It's a circus, and you're the head clown. The audience gasped. Even by daytime TV standards, this was unprecedented. How dare you? Joy shrieked, abandoning all pretense of professionalism. How dare you insult me on my own show? Your show? Eastwood looked around at the other hosts. Funny, I thought this was a panel show. Turns out it's just the Joy Behar ego war with some backup singers. Whoopi finally found her voice. Clint, that's enough. Joy, you need to calm down.
No.
Joy snapped. Don't tell me to calm down. This man comes in with his holier than thou attitude and thinks he can disrespect me on national television. The only person showing disrespect here, Eastwood said quietly, is you. From the moment I sat down, you've been looking for a fight instead of having a conversation. I was doing my job. Joy repeated, but the words sounded hollow. No. Eastwood shook his head slowly. Your job would be asking me about my work, my process, maybe even my thoughts on filmmaking. Your job would be to make your audience feel like they learned something, or were entertained by something worthwhile. He gestured toward the cameras. Instead, you spent the last 20 minutes trying to embarrass a guest who came here in good faith, and you've succeeded in embarrassing yourself and your show. Joy looked around desperately for support, found none. The other hosts avoided her gaze. The audience was clearly on Eastwood's side. Fine, she said, voice cracking. If you don't want to answer real questions, maybe you shouldn't be doing interviews. Eastwood paused, removing his microphone slowly. Real questions. He turned to the camera. A real question would be, what drives you to keep making films at your age? Or, what advice would you give to young filmmakers? Or, which story are you most proud of telling? He looked back at Joy. But those questions require that you actually care about the answers. And we both know you don't. The studio was so silent you could hear the camera operators breathe. Joy looked like she wanted to speak, but for once, she was at a loss for words. You know what's the saddest part? Eastwood continued, voice almost gentle. You had a chance to have a real conversation with someone who's lived through decades of American cinema history. Instead, you played gotcha games like an amateur blogger chasing clicks. He set his microphone on the table. That's not just a waste of your time and mine. It's a waste of your audience's time. They deserve better than this performance. Joy finally spoke, but it was a shriek.
Don't lecture me about what my audience deserves. I've been connecting with viewers for decades.
Eastwood asked, straightening his jacket. Or have you just been yelling at them for decades? There's a difference between connecting with people and just making noise. Producers frantically signaled behind the cameras, trying to salvage the live situation. But Eastwood was already walking toward the exit, leaving stunned hosts and a shocked audience. Security, Joy called desperately. Eastwood laughed for the first time during the interview. Security, what are they going to do, Joy? Arrest me for hurting your feelings? He paused, taking in the stunned faces around him. I've been in this business for over 60 years, worked with the best directors, actors, and crews in the world, and in all that time, I've never encountered anyone quite like you. Is that supposed to be a compliment? Joy asked sarcastically, grasping at control. Take it however you want. Eastwood said, voice dropping to that whisper that could cut glass. But when people talk about this interview tomorrow, they won't remember your tough questions or journalistic integrity. They'll remember how you completely lost your composure and embarrassed yourself on live television. With that, Clint Eastwood walked calmly toward the studio exit, leaving behind stunned hosts, a shocked audience, and a completely humiliated Joy Behar. As the doors closed, cameras captured her face red with rage, the other hosts in stunned silence, and a room that had just witnessed television history. What started as a routine promotional interview had become one of the most explosive confrontations in daytime TV history. Clint Eastwood proved that even in his 90s, he's still the fastest draw in Hollywood, except this time his weapon was words, not bullets. Subscribe for more incredible stories, and let us know in the comments, do you think Joy Behar finally met her match?